it also demonstrates how the leaders, the middle class, appointed, anointed leaders of the African community are losing their grips on the masses of the people. It shows how the people are summing up their own experiences with the state, recognizing that there is no justice to be found in the court system, and understanding that the U.S., the police in this country, function as an arm of the government. They are, in fact, a domestic military occupation force. And so I thought it was really significant to see what happened in Milwaukee. And just as we've seen some similar uprisings occur in this country. And I think what we are seeing again is Milwaukee has to be seen as a kind of escalation. The typical lies that's told by the killers, that the man was pointing a gun at them. Nobody has seen the gun pointed at him yet, and which is not to say that even if the gun had been pointed at the cop, that it would have been an illegitimate act. But the fact is that they don't need any justification for killing us. And they shot this young man as he was running away. All the cops, including the mayor, said that he was running away. And what we're talking about is this was not a suspected murderer, rapist, anything like that. It was a traffic incident that was the basis of the stop. And we're seeing Africans dying when cops stop them for traffic incidents, or when they don't show up for traffic court. They send SWAT teams and what have you, kicking down doors. And it's a clear demonstration of a particular kind of relationship that the government, the police, the state have with African people. And Milwaukee was just a part of the evidence that the pot's boiling over. And it also is something that has occurred where the masses are more militant than the leadership, that the self-defined leadership. We saw that first in Ferguson, where the people rose up after this slaughter of Michael Brown. The people rose up with the chant, "Kill the police." And the so-called leaders that hijacked that movement with hashtags, computer generated revolutionaries, are now talking about Black Lives Matter, which is a poor substitute for the demand that came from the people, kill the police, and which is a legitimate response to the police killing Black people all around this country. And in every instance, what we see is the masses much more militant, and Milwaukee was another example of the people being much more militant and ready to struggle than those frauds who present themselves as leaders of the African community. Which is not to say that every leader has to go out and say, kill the police, but every leader has to, if to be genuine, has to recognize the illegitimacy of the relationship that we have to the government, to the state, to the police. And to simply walk around saying body cameras and Black Lives Matters and hands up, don't shoot is not leadership. It's an absolute total failure of leadership. And it is a means by which white power in another face, in another form, hijacks the struggle of the people to try to keep it from reaching its logical conclusion, which is to destroy this relationship that colonized Africans have with white power.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask a question, and then you help me understand how different would these different acts of resistance look if the masses of those involved had political education, or if they understood the theory of African internationalism. What type of resistance would that look like?
Well, I think that the real problem is not so much what the resistance looks like, because it could look just like Milwaukee looked. It could look just like Dallas looked when Micah Xavier Johnson took action. It could look just like Baton Rouge. So, I mean, how it looks, but the thing is a consciousness of why it was happening and what kind of conclusions the actions should take us toward. I think that's the difference. I think that if Dallas and Baton Rouge and Milwaukee and all of these other places where we've seen uprisings occurred was conscious of revolutionary objectives, conscious of the fact that we are, as a whole people, have been kidnapped and dragged here at gunpoint against our will and worked like beasts. Our people humiliated, women raped and brutalized, children denied any possibility of a future. And then the claims that we hear from every institution that's capable of stating something is that we are responsible for it ourselves. That is our own barbarism, our own lack of education, our own ineptitude that's responsible for it. That's the line and the politic that we get. And I think that a revolutionary consciousness would be a consciousness that was clear. It said, this is the ends that we are fighting for. We are fighting to get this monkey off our back, to get this white power off our back, to overthrow this relationship that we have. We're fighting because we want our Africa back. 12 million square miles of nothing but richness that's been looted now for several hundred years. We were a part of what was the loot of Africa. And now, in addition to just human beings who have been brought here, they've stolen and continue to steal from Africa. That makes America, white America, rich, makes Germany rich, makes Europe, England, France, all of them rich, and black people around the world poor and poor every day. And so part of what we're saying is that what needs to be happen is when people strike out, they need to be striking out in a way that's going to take us toward overturning this relationship, take back our Africa, take back our freedom, take back our sovereignty, take back our resources. Our objectives have to be to create a situation where white people have to get jobs like everybody else. They have to find houses in their own neighborhoods. When I say neighborhoods, that's across the pond, so to speak. They need to start writing and singing their own music. They need to start doing their own gymnastics, right? They need to start running for themselves, playing basketball, baseball for themselves. They need to work for themselves, etc. Right now, they're looting the whole world, and they have been doing this for several hundred years. And we have to have a movement to deloot, if you will, to deloot this process, to take back our resources. Now, the problem is that we've got so-called leaders who are small-minded. They can't even imagine black people being in power, and they certainly cannot imagine the black workers who create all the value being in power, but we can. And that's the thing that drives us, because we know the power is not in some legislature, not in some Congress, but it's on Canfield Drive where Mike Brown died. Power is in that community in Milwaukee where those people were gunned down. The power is located in the community where the most oppressed sector of our people are living, whether it's in this country or any place around the world. And that information, that consciousness would have made Milwaukee look much different, not because of the action so much, unless it might have included possibly people would have raided armories, maybe, you know, done other things to prepare for the long run. It wouldn't perhaps have looked like some kind of single incident, because we're going to have to get out of this situation. And I do not hesitate saying this, that our children deserve a right for a future regardless of what the law says, because the law was made by people who've broken every law that existed before they appeared in civilization. There have been laws before. They broke every law. They enslaved human beings. They have created the most bestial acts against the masses of us. And so then they create the law. they create a lot of validation, justify everything that they've done. So I don't give a damn about what the law says, except that I know that I have to work in a fashion to create the ability for us to make our own laws and to be governed by our own rules. So that's what I think would make the difference in Milwaukee. It may have looked the same in terms of people's response to it, but it would have been more coherent, and it would have had actual leadership as opposed to being characterized primarily by spontaneity.
Oftentimes, I hear you mention that we are in a war of ideas, and it's a struggle to combat the misleadership that often go into these places and try to tame, I guess, the consciousness of those involved. What are some of the things that we must do in order to gather control of the narrative and to show our people, African people, the way forward and the way that this consciousness must go in order to achieve our freedom and to seize power?
I think we're in the process of doing it right now, but this struggle is not going to be won by a debate. What has to happen is, even though the African People's Socialist Party recognizes ourselves as the advanced detachment of the working class, its general staff, we are not the same as the working class. We are the leaders of the class. And I think that's really important for us to keep in mind. And that to be the leaders of the working class, we have to be where the class is. We have to be in the trenches where the people are. We have to live in these communities. We have to be in these communities. We have to be there with our propaganda, with our newspapers, where people can open up the newspaper. And we have created the newspapers and see themselves. We have created this vehicle right now that people have the ability to listen to us and to talk to us. And this is part of what has to occur. And the critical thing is that developing organization among the people, revolutionary, not just any kind of organization, not some liberal Saul Alinsky-based kind of organization, but organization that has as its objective to take power. Because if you're not talking about top power, you're still in the same situation of trying to get those who have the power to do right by you. And the fact is, they got the power by doing wrong to you. Yeah. And if you are to change that, then you have to fight for the power. And I'm saying this about many so-called radical formations, radical organizations, where their agenda, even though they talk a radical talk, they don't have the seizure of power on their agendas. What they talk about is trying to find a way to affect policies of the government. Even the radicals who want to block the interstates and things like this, they don't have power, seizure of power on their agenda. And we do. Yeah. We intend to govern. And I think that's one of the things that's really important, to say.
Uhuru, you mentioned organization, and one of those organizations is Impedum, that meets the masses where they are and bring them into political life. And next month, on the 17th and 18th of September, they will be hosting their 25th anniversary convention. Can you speak a little bit about this convention and continue the Black struggle for self-determination?
Well, Impedum is the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And it's an organization to fight for the national democratic rights of African people. And when we say national democratic rights, we don't mean the democratic rights that occur within what people loosely define as a nation. Usually they mean like the government, the United States or something like that. They speak about territory, countries, and the whole question of nation and nationality is so confused in this country. That's what they mean often. When we say the national democratic rights, we're talking about democratic rights of the African nation, African people. That's the thing that we're fighting for. We're not fighting, and we say the highest expression of democracy for us is self-determination, to be free again. And this organization is one that actually came into existence. It tracks its history to 1991, but it actually came into existence or in an incipient form in Oakland, California in 1985. In 1991, it became the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, when he pulled together a conference in Chicago, Illinois, that had representatives from some 26 cities and 25 states. And at his first conference, and we made the first president of the organization was the widow of Fred Hampton, who had been murdered by the Chicago Police Department, the FBI, in December 4th, 1969. And we held it on April 6th, which was the anniversary of the U.S. government murder of Bobby Hutton in Oakland, California, 2 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so it was these I'm mentioning these dates because they are really significant symbolically, because it was our way of saying, as Fred Hampton had said already, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. The revolution was alive, and it lives today. And so this organization was created to defend the democratic rights of African people, to expose the counterinsurgency, to expose the war that killed Malcolm, killed King, to expose the war that killed Fred Hampton, that killed more than 30 members of the Black Panther Party, that killed the co-founder of the African People's Socialist Party, to expose the war that locked up hundreds of African people in the 1960s to take us out of action so we couldn't fight for the happiness of our people and the return of our resources. This is what NPDUM was. Mm-hmm. And I would even remind us, even as we talk about going to this convention, that this is a heroic organization. I mean, it was this organization, this is the 20th anniversary. On November 13, 1996, 20 years ago, this coming November, the NPDUM headquarters at the time and an NPDUM meeting was assaulted by military forces, the St. Petersburg Police Department, police organizations from throughout this county and state. More than 300 armed terrorists attacked this building, attacked the building that we are having this meeting in now. And it was a meeting of NPDUM that was attacked. And they attacked NPDUM because they didn't want NPDUM to talk to the people about the police murder that had happened just a few weeks ago. And they were going to come back with a grand jury to do exactly what they did in Ferguson. So it's not new. Exactly what they did after the Long Island murder, exactly what they did in Cleveland. They're coming back now to exonerate the cops who killed 18-year-old African child here. And because NPDUM has always been in the trenches in this city and every place else, they came out full-fledged with more than 300 cops. They attacked the headquarters of NPDUM with tear gas. They set houses and businesses on fire in this community. It resulted in the Africans rising up and shooting a helicopter down. So now NPDUM has been carrying the struggle and trying to institute itself throughout this country to provide that kind of on the ground militant leadership that is designed to win our freedom. And that's what this convention is about. This convention that's happening in September in Ferguson. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to say we're going to Ferguson. We're taking, Ferguson has sent militancy out throughout this country. A lot of people who now become militant, they started it on August 9th, 2014, after the Ferguson resistance. Now, we taken 20 years later after the attack on this building, and where Africans rose up and brought a helicopter down from the sky, and we taken St. Petersburg to Ferguson. And I'm saying St. Petersburg, the history of NPDUM will be in Ferguson on view for everybody who wants to see it and participate in it, and to also participate in forging a new agenda of resistance for African people that's consistent with the glorious tradition of Black people fighting for freedom since our captivity here and around the world.
Is there a way you can speak a little bit about what the people who do attend this event should expect? What's going to be going on at this 25th anniversary convention?
For me, one of the most important things that people can expect is evidence that our movement has broken free from these appointed and anointed Negro leaders.
Yeah.
You won't find Sharpton there, and Jesse Jackson won't be in the neighborhood.
No.
And you won't find people chanting "hands up, don't shoot," and Black Lives Matter and other things that don't have any particular resonance. Right. What you will find is that African working people are standing up. This incredible young woman leader, Kalambayi, who was once known as Herdosia Bentham, is the president of that organization, and she's straight from the class. And her international executive committee is essentially working class, many of whom are also women, people who have been discarded, but all kinds of people will be there. And we'll be talking about reparations and a real agenda and programs for reparations. We'll have people there who their families have been victims of police murder, but they won't be cringing. They won't be there saying, oh, all the police are not bad and we forgive them kind of stuff. You're going to have this woman who was once known as Yashika Clemens. Her name is now Kunde, whose daughter was among 3 children, 3 young girls who were killed by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, pushed into a pond after a high-speed chase and drowned. Her daughter was 16 years old. Her 2 friends were 15 years old. And this happened on March 31st of this year. And this sister is going to be there. And like I said, she's a fighting sister. She's a revolutionary sister. She's become revolutionized by what has happened to her daughter, and she is ready to struggle. We hope to have people there like Glenn Ford from Black Agenda Report, where we be examining the significance of this whole electoral season. What in the hell is happening when you see the Democrats and the Republicans are trying to contain how people will understand and participate in this electoral process going forward. I think Zaki Baruti is someone who has been invited. He is a longtime activist out of Ferguson, Missouri. He was really important in the struggle that happened in Ferguson. These are just some of the forces that will be there. But, you know, but people like Tony Taylor, whose son was gunned down, shot 21 times by police in St. Louis. And many of those times after he was down on the ground, so that there were actually imprints from bullets that went through his body and created indentations in the pavement under him. These are people who are going to be there. And it's going to be a really dynamic, powerful convention. And, you know, I think everybody ought to be there. I know people are coming from various places. People even talking about loading up vans coming out of California. And that's a pretty interesting trek. That's going to be a pretty long trek. And people are registering in Texas and Florida and Alabama and various other places. And we're going into Ferguson. And, you know, we are the ones who, in PDOM, participated in creating a Black People's Grand Jury in Ferguson after the White People's Grand Jury would not indict Darren Wilson for the murder of Mike Brown. NPDOM did that. This is an activist movement, so you can expect that the agenda that comes out of this is going to be powerful, and it's going to be pushing us further on the road to freedom.
Uhuru. Right now, I just want to encourage people to log on to NPDOM's website, where you can find more information about this 25th anniversary convention and how to register. And that's at www.inpdum.org. That's www.npdum.org. Also, I want to encourage people to log on to the Black is Back Coalition website to find more information about the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. And they can do so by logging on to www.blackisbackcoalition.org. That is www.blackisbackcoalition.org. Chairman, is there anything else you would like to discuss before we get ready to close the show out?
Well, I just want to express my appreciation being here for what you're doing. And I recognize as somebody who's been involved in the struggle for a very long time, that we are at a really important place in history today. In many ways, history has been pushed backwards, even though we see a lot of activity around the world. And by that, what I mean is that we're almost at a place politically where people have a kind of pre-revolutionary consciousness. Where in the 1960s, people had come to revolutionary conclusions. Everybody expected revolution. Everybody did, even people who were opposed to revolution. And now we have the responsibility of reintroducing revolution to the consciousness of the people. And people need to understand that revolution is good, that our oppressors do things to give revolution this image of being crazed people who are out there just doing violent things. But revolution is what made the people in Vietnam and Cuba and China and all around the world free. And it's going to take revolution for us to be free as well. So it's a critical historical moment, and I'm hoping that people who want genuine freedom, who want revolution, who may be coming to love revolution, will join and participate in the Uhuru movement and in the African People's Socialist Party, the African People's Solidarity Committee, and the various other kinds of entities that we've created to open the door to revolutionary possibilities for everybody in this country and most people around the world. Uhuru. Uhuru.
Again, I just want to thank my guest today, Ms. Willette Lockett, Timba, and of course, Chairman of the African Socialist International, Chairman Amalia Satella. Tune in next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have another great show for you. And thank you for attending. And right now, we're going to close it off. Have a great day.
Good. Who is Willette Lockett?
Chimaranga, we had a conversation with her. She was telling me that, I guess,